I think a lot about relationships of objects as an artist. So my art is rearranging these objects to ultimately try and make more sense of the world as I see it. The way I see the world has changed. It's always changing, and I have these different ways I can arrange things so that my version of the world is not static, and nor is my art. I'm Alicia Bailey. I live and work in Aurora and Denver, Colorado. I make artists' books. I have always been pretty comfortable working with objects. My father was a mechanical engineer who had a wood shop where he spent a lot of his time, and it hadn't occurred to me to become involved in the visual arts as a profession or even an avocation until when I was in high school. I had a really remarkable art teacher who helped me get into an art education program. I am very interested in objects and how they relate to one another in a contained context. I started exploring ways of combining imagery into form. But what started to happen that was unanticipated was this attraction to working with physical objects that maybe did go back to being a little kid and just messing around with objects. Working with objects, particularly objects that a viewer can manipulate and alter, started seeming both an unwieldy way to work and also a very appealing way to work. I've created artists' books out of steel, out of porcelain, out of glass, and I'm certainly not alone in doing these material explorations of what can be bound and presented as an artist's book. It's about object to me, and I often think of artists' books as being time-based. They're not static. But what I hope that people take away from an experience with my work is a broadening of their world to include things like spending extended period of time with an artwork that really getting an artist's book requires, what it feels like to have an intimate experience with an art object, but to be able to hold that in your hands and then not know what's going to happen when you turn the page. So what I hope for is this extension of mystery. We can say all day long that it's the process of making work that's important, but it's also important to know that your work is going to live outside of your studio. It's really exciting, and I feel connected to the objects after they've left my studio in a way that I might not if I didn't have awareness that they were being looked at by all of these other eyes and bodies out there in the world.
This episode of Beyond the Gallery is made possible by Colorado Creative Industries, the Boettcher Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts.